Hey, welcome back to Wicked Smart Golf, aka Wicked Smat. This is your host, Michael Leonard, and this podcast is committed to helping you play better golf without changing your swing. Today, I'm really excited to bring on Marcus Potter. Marcus is kind of the PGA Tour putting guru right now, and we are really excited to learn more because it is one of the 5 pillars of playing Wicked Smart Golf. So, Marcus, thanks so much for being here, man.
Appreciate you having me on.
It's going to be a lot of fun, man. We've had a lot of great mental game experts, course management guys, a lot of practice tips, but I feel like putting is the one area that we still have a lot of room to improve. And if you look at the stats, amateurs have a lot of room for improvement there. And it is kind of the core principle of Wicked Smart Golf, which is better golf without swing changes. So that's where I'm really excited to talk with you. We got to rewind though. Before you became a PGA Tour putting coach, I read that you grew up with a putting green, so you probably kind of fell in love with that side of the game. Take us back to kind of the background and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so my dad was always really big into golf, so he's the one that kind of got me into it. I've pretty much played my whole life. Grew up in Oregon, kind of same as you. Then went to San Jose State, but going back to the putting green, like I grew up with the putting green in my backyard. Was always really interested in putting. My dad is a world-class putter. And I think that's kind of how I got into it. Probably was his skill for it. I kind of naturally got used to that. But I was always interested in putting, always a good thing. Went to San Jose State, played down there. And then my senior year of college started an Instagram because I noticed that like there's a bunch of swing pages, right? Like everyone talks about swing in a different way. And I was like, there's not really many pages that are talking about putting. And so I was like, okay, I like how Tiger Woods does this. I like how Ricky Fowler does that. I post videos of it, talk about it, and then gained a following and then ended up out on tour somehow because tour
That
guys
is
are on Instagram more than people think. And they're golf nerds like the rest of us, like we're just trying to get better. They're trying to learn from anything they can.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I've had a few guests on, and like you said, they just kind of built a social media, and then all of a sudden they're working with this player and that player, and maybe traveling around. So it's good to know that even the best players in the world are still always looking for ways to get better too.
Always.
So
It's interesting. Like you never like I'll get stuff sent to me by tour guys like, what do you think of this? I'm like, actually it's pretty good. Or I don't
mhm.
like that at all, or whatever it is.
That's just crazy. When you were in college, were you helping out any of your teammates or anything, or was like when did you start to kind of
Uh
realize you like coaching it?
yeah, so me and one of my good buddies, Cody Blick, who plays on the Corn Ferry Tour right now, he's a world-class putter as well. I'd put him up against anyone in the world putting. But me and him would go putt for 2, 3 hours a day and like just kind of fell in love with it, even more so probably. And it's an area I always excelled at in golf. So I kind of liked it, obviously, just because of that too. But that was kind of the guy, me and him would bounce ideas off each other. Like he would help me, I would help him. And I think we both kind of naturally learned a lot about that and just kind of seeing, because I was always an extreme die putter. So I'd play everything in on the high side. And Cody in college, I still to this day don't know anyone that hit putts harder than him. Like I would say a ball would be a foot out, and he'd be like, "Dude, that thing's right edge." Like not like we would legitimately have big gaps like that. But again, it's kind of stuff that opens your mind and makes you see like, hey, there's more than one way to do it. Like obviously, as you know, golf in general, but I feel like putting as a whole can be done a million different ways.
hmm Yeah, that's actually kind of where I want to start. I mean, is like I feel like players, like you said, they spend all their time watching those swing videos. They're on YouTube looking for how to shallow the club, how to do this, and it's like putting is right there. And it's like such a, I think if you look at strokes gained, sometimes you can find different. Oh, this might not, be easier or more able to improve this for better scores. But to me, there's something you can't measure when you're a good putter, and that's just confidence. It frees up the rest of your game and it feels like you can, hit it a little better or, not as good off the tee, not as good, into the green. Maybe you don't hit a good chip, but like when you feel like you're a clutch putter, like everything changes. So I want to like kind of get your framework on putting because I was reading an article and you said there's 4 main aspects. I think it's on your website too: mindset, green reading, routine, and putting stroke. And I wanted to kind of like take us through what is your like philosophy with putting and how should golfers start to kind of break down their putting to figure out where the weaknesses are and how they can improve.
That's a great question. So the first thing, like, so I kind of this is what I tell tour players, but this holds true regardless. Obviously, we're all at different skill levels. Not everyone's a tour player, but anyone can putt like a tour player. And that's kind of why I love putting coaching too, because anyone can be as good as maybe not as Denny McCarthy, but anyone can be a really good putter and compete with a PGA Tour player in a putting contest. You might not be able to hit it 350 yards or whatever, but you can putt like them. And so my philosophy with putting, what I tell these tour guys is 6 feet and in. If you're really good 6 feet and in, you're not really going to three putt much because you have a 12-foot circle around the hole for lags if you're really good at at that point for 6 feet and in, and then just have great speed control. If you're good at those two things, you're always going to be capable at putting. And to me, kind of goes back to what you said. Putting is almost one of those immeasurable things where it's like, if you know you're going to make every 6 footer, how much easier does that make a chip shot? How much easier does that make an iron shot, a wedge shot, anything? Like you're not really as nervous. And that's trends I'll see with guys on tour. When guys get into zones where they're really putting well for could be 2, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, their whole golf game gets tightened up because they're either willing to accept more risk on a par five or go at a pin, and they're not afraid of not getting it up and down. And that's kind of what plays into it. And that's why putting's such a big thing, in my opinion, because it's the ultimate equalizer in golf. You can hit 3 bad shots on a hole, and if you get on the green and have 30 feet and make it, you still make par. But kind of going back to that, like, so all I care about with people is speed, is setup. Like, setup's really kind of the main thing. Setup kind of determines how we're going to be able to move. Setup kind of determines everything. So I've done probably like close to 12, 13,000 online lessons now. And that's the thing
Dang,
that I
man, that's
really kind
awesome.
of start to see with people where it's like, you could take someone who has a bad putting stroke and a bad setup. And if you just instantly put them into a better setup, they're
Hmm.
going to start rolling it better just because their body's in a spot where they don't need to manipulate as much.
Hmm.
The motion itself might not be right, but they're instantly going to putt better just because they're in a more fine-tuned position to allow it to happen.
I love this quote too. I wanted to you just kind of talked about a little bit setup. It was on that I think it was on your website. It said it's all setup related. The most common thing I'll see is the player's weight gets too far back, the ball gets too far forward, and that gets the shaft leaning really too far back. So that like you said, if I think setup's huge for everything, right? Like half of my bad golf swings are because my shoulders get too far right, my feet get left. Like we all have these setup things with the golf swing, with wedges, with bunkers, but with putting, it's like right there. It's so easy if you just record it and you actually look at your
Yep.
setup. So, based on the kind of that quote and maybe 13,000 lessons, like you said, what are some of the biggest mistakes that in the setup, and how can we kind of improve that?
So kind of actually show. So this is one of the best ways. So like try and turn this down a little bit so everyone can see. So obviously, like let's just call this really square.
Hmm.
That would be de-lofted, correct?
Yep.
This would be showing a lot of loft. So to me, every putter is going to be different where square is. So something I'll commonly do with people is as soon as I see them, I'll kind of put any sort of straight edge up against their putter. And this is kind of the foundation to honestly kind of build a setup off of. Because a lot of people, like I said, they're going to be their shafts leaning too far back. So you're going to see a lot of loft on the putter. And you put that
Hmm.
up and you're like, oh, square that face up. And you can see every putter is a little different. Sometimes you're going to be able to see the face. Like Odysseys, you see the face more. Scotty Cameron's, you typically don't. Everything's a little different, but kind of learning to set it up square to that straight edge to me is one of the first pieces of the setup because that means your shaft lean's in proper setup, your face is not de-lofted or adding loft, which means you're going to properly kind of allow the putter to swing properly. That's honestly kind of the first thing that I do with people. I mean, I do that
Hmm.
with tour players, with everyone, because every putter has a different square position. And so to me, it starts with that putter being set up where you want it to want it to aim and square to that. And then from there, you just build your stance around that.
Okay.
And that's kind of going back into where if that's the case, you would never see someone too far back on their back foot because it would just look really weird without
Hmm.
with that shaft like this, with their hands way forward.
Right.
And so that's kind of why that I start with the shaft lean every time because
Okay.
that's going to naturally kind of tell people like, oh, wow, this looks really awkward. I need to get more here. And
Hmm.
then it feels better. And then that, again, just naturally lets the body kind of move how it should. But that's really the setup here is just like getting that face square is the first thing and then building your stance around it. I can't tell you how many times I have, and even tour players do this too. When I see someone walk into the ball, they set their feet first and then they set their putter head. That messes up spacing, that messes up
Mm.
alignment, and
Okay. So
you're gonna be
putter
in a different
first and
setup
then
every
build the
time.
stance.
And that's
Okay.
why like if you watch like Tiger, Jason Day's probably the best example of it, where like he really sets that putter head with his right
Yeah.
hand, gets that thing correct, grips it, and then builds his stance to that.
Hmm.
That alone will help people putt better. Just because they're going to naturally be in a more consistent setup, they're going to be aligned better, and they're not going to have to manipulate things. Because if you build your stance around your putter head's aimed left, and then you kind of build your stance to that, and subconsciously you know that thing needs to start over there. you're going to try and figure out a way to get it over there, but
Uh-huh.
that's not going to be consistent. You're just going to be fighting your body the whole time.
Okay. That excuse me. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like amateurs probably do the exact opposite. Like you said, they build their stance and then they just kind
Yep.
of wing it with the putter face. So with the setup, one of the biggest I feel like areas that I had to improve was eye position. So can you talk about being left eye dominant or right eye dominant? Does that matter? Should you be over it? Under it? There's like just I feel like a lot of conflicting advice that I read and see sometimes. What's kind of your take on eye position and how that impacts setup?
So eye position's a very interesting thing. I kind of am getting a little more into that now. I've spent a little bit of time with Craig Farnsworth, who's kind of like he's probably the premier eye doctor for putting.
Mm.
Like a lot of tour players go to him. So he's a former eye doctor that kind of went into like shooting in the Olympics or
Oh
putting, like
wow.
very specialized stuff for that. And I really liked how he put it. Everyone sees differently. Me and you see differently. I could be right eye dominant. You could be left eye dominant. I could just see squares better than you see squares. You could see
Hmm.
circles better than I see circles. So that goes into putter head shape. That goes into alignment aids on the putter. And then
Mm.
obviously where your eyes are as well. Some people are going to need to be more every which way. The
Mm.
thing that I like that he said that I have honestly been trying to get out to more people is eyes are like anything. We need to train them. And you never really hear anyone talk about that or see anyone do it. But like Luke Donald, apparently one of the first things he would do when he'd get on a putting green, he would set an alignment stick down, set up to it, and trace it with his eyes. And so that kind of goes into a little bit of kind of what you're saying. So everyone's going to see different. So for me to say everyone or anyone with a right eye needs to be here or there is just
Hmm.
not correct. And because we all have different body positions and everything, the way I like to do with people is kind of his drill is put a 10-foot line of tape in your garage, in your home. You could do it anywhere. To
Hmm.
do two alignment sticks, set up to it like you're going to hit a putt, have your putter. First thing, cover your left eye. It should take 22 seconds down, 22 seconds back, then do it with both eyes, and then cover your right eye and do it. And what that's doing is teaching you to see straight. That's one of the biggest things that can help anyone. And that you do that for 5 minutes a day at home, it trains you to see differently. And that was the thing that I asked him was if someone needs to be kind of here to see straight and they do drills like this, he goes, you'll naturally see their head get more
Mm.
straightened out. And to me, it was the interesting thing. He's like, your eyes are a muscle. No one really trains them, but they need to be trained just as much as anything does.
Hmm.
And so I thought that was one of the most telling signs, honestly. So that's kind of where I get people is like we kind of get them. I'll do that two alignment sticks if I want a putting green with someone and kind of see where people are, but it's really kind of
Hmm.
figuring out how to see straight for the individual. And so the
Interesting.
easiest way to do that would be that 10-foot line of tape or two alignment sticks and set up to it. And honestly, tinker with your head positioning, tinker with your neck
Hmm.
positioning, and try and figure out what allows you to see straight. A lot of the time for people, if you get too upright with your neck, it's hard to see laterally down.
Hmm.
But the flatter the neck, obviously, you're much more parallel to the ground. It's going to be easier to kind of see down your line. That's probably the biggest cheat code for people would be get your neck flat as you
Mm.
can, and
Yeah.
you're going to naturally see better. But again, that still goes into you got to figure out where your position is. And
Uh-huh.
that's kind of where like I'm not big on like anyone has to be in one spot because some
Okay.
people are going to be two, three golf balls inside of it. Some people are going to be two
Hmm.
golf balls inside of it, one golf ball behind it. And that's totally fine. Some people are going to be dead on top of it.
Yeah.
It's just figuring out where in your setup does your head need to be to see straight.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. You'll appreciate this. I can't really see out of my right eye, so trust me, I can't do that drill. I'm like at 2400, like nobody wants me using the right eye. So I'm beyond left eye dominant. So that but it's interesting though because it does like when you change your where you stand and like it shows like it changes your start line sometimes. And I feel like that just gets overlooked a lot of times for players. So one thing I always tell golfers is like when you're putting well, take a video of it so you can be like, oh, this is the position I need to get into. Is that something you feel like even pros are like always trying to video and capture the good ones?
that that I feel like that's some of the best piece of advice for golf in general is
Hmm.
when you're hitting it well, when you're putting well, take videos, take measurements. Like
Mm.
know exactly how far you are from the ball with your 6 iron, with
Oh,
your driver, with your putter. Are you too like I mean, obviously when they had step shafts, my old college coach would talk about it. Ken Venturi told him he's like, I'm 4 steps in or 4 steps down, 2 steps in when I'm in my proper setup. And like he could set up to like whatever club that was, and it would be
huh.
4 steps down, 2 steps in. And it's like anyone could do that. And that's, I love how you said that. That's seriously, I mean, I do that with my tour players. When they have go out and gain 4 shots putting one day, the
Hmm.
first thing we do is go to the putting green, take videos, take measurements, just to kind of see like, hey,
Yeah.
when you gained 4 shots in Sea Island last year, you were 2 putter heads away and the ball was 1 putter head inside off your left foot. And right now you're 3 putter heads away and the ball's on your left foot or whatever it is. And like, it's easy to kind of get back into like, oh, okay, this kind of the feels kind of come back for him.
Hmm.
But I think that's some of the best piece of advice for just golf in general, what you just said.
Yeah, that's awesome. I never thought about measurements though. I only just do video. So what should we be measuring?
Like, so when I measure with people, like when we have really, really good days, like I'll take their alignment sticks.
Hmm.
So for putting, it would be like, okay, the middle of each foot, ball
Okay.
position, and then how far from the stick to the ball.
Okay. Gotcha.
So like just stance width, how far from the ball? Because
Okay.
usually when that's correct, someone's not going to be too upright or too bent over, and you're going to
Hmm.
be able to kind of get that right just by being at the same distance from the ball. But
Got
I
it.
think measurements are huge for
Yeah. I never even thought about that. Wicked smart approved, man. I love it. That's a gem right
that.
there. Because it's funny. We only record. It seems like on the bad days. It's like we gotta
Yeah,
have we gotta have a
it,
blueprint for success.
it's weird, like because even on tour, like it's interesting how guys go about it, but like you try and take notes and like a lot of the guys write journals. They journal
Mm,
stuff down. Like I mean, Jim Furyk's famous for it, but like because it's I mean, you go through so many feels, you go through so many different thoughts. Like as any like, tour players, beginners, doesn't matter. Everyone's gonna have
yep.
different feels, and like the feel of lifting the club up one day might work, and
Hmm.
then 2 weeks later that could be disaster for you.
Mm,
But it's all relative, and it's like you. I feel like it's easier for people to go back and figure out how to correct things when they're like, okay, I was hitting this ball flight, and this was my fix, or whatever it was for
hmm.
putting, whatever your issue is, like journaling is just a great way to go back and get in your own head and because you're writing it in your own voice. Like I'm like when I do that with my guys, when I have them explaining something, like they're talking about their grip, I will
Hmm.
literally talk, I will grab my phone and record them.
Hmm.
And like, dude, I want this in your own voice so that
Yeah.
we need this down the road. Like this is literally how you explained it.
Hmm. Gosh, that's fantastic advice. Anything else with the setup that we might be missing, or most amateurs are kind of making any other mistakes?
Weight distribution. I see again, to me, it just all starts with that shaft length. If that
Okay, so
shaft
weight
length's correct,
distribution so is this 50-50? Do you want more in the front? Like you said, I think in the quote, too far back. So I guess I'm trying to figure out how we can check this because I never really thought about it with putting.
yeah, and so like it's funny, like I just actually have a pressure mat that I'm gonna kind of start messing around with because that's some people are kind of doing that, and it's just kind of interesting to
Hmm.
see how stuff changes during the stroke or in the setup.
Yeah.
But again, in general, I'd want to see probably 50-50 or like 55 on the lead foot.
Okay.
Because one of the biggest problems I see when people get back is they just can't make it work. Some people can, but it's definitely a
Mm.
minority of people. But if you're
Yep.
centered or slightly forward of center, it's going to
Okay.
be easier to stay centered and just kind of rotate around yourself as opposed to a lot of times when people hear they'll either move on it or sometimes it's just you never know what's going to happen when people get too far back. But
Hmm.
it's very easy when people are up here to just kind of post up. Like I've got a
Okay.
great video of Tiger from the Hero in like 2017 or something, 2018, wherever it was,
Hmm.
and it's just him, and you can clearly tell he's just stacked on his left side.
Okay.
And it's a great video, but that would be kind of there's the lead side for a right-handed golfer, left-handed golfer.
Okay, man, that's great. So we feel like we got setup dialed in. One thing I was reading on your website too, you talked about tempo a lot, and I had John Novosel Jr. of Tour Tempo on a few times, and he's talking about how it's like a metronome, right, and how it's kind of having that 2-to-1 ratio. I have focused a lot on that. Like, can you talk about how tempo does impact swings and how it needs to kind of change for short, mid, and long putts?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing is like I am a big fan of metronome use. Tour tempo is great as well. It's like it's cool when you see those videos that they post and like
Hmm.
everyone's different timing and it's like
Yep.
people fall under it. It doesn't need to be the exact same, but it's like
Right.
people have a timing and those guys are usually kind of the best at it. But like what I love about a metronome is let's say someone has like that classic short backstroke, big acceleration coming through.
Hmm.
As you kind of work on a metronome, I can have someone and not say anything, but like, okay, I just want you, let's just start with a metronome, a 2 beat system at 67 is kind of that classic 2-to-1.
Okay.
And so it's like, all right, start of stroke is first beat, impact second beat, kind of get that down for people. they realize they really need to speed up their backstroke.
Mm.
And speeding up the backstroke, naturally, you take a longer backstroke. And as you do that, the acceleration doesn't need to come through. So the putter can kind of just glide more coming through. And it's truly the craziest thing that I've seen in my online lessons or in person lessons,
Hmm.
where I'll give someone that's got a rapid acceleration, won't say anything about stroke length. I'm just like, all right, let's just match these beeps. About 10 minutes in, their stroke length's very equidistant.
Uh-huh.
Tempo looks awesome. And the craziest thing about a metronome too, so Quintic's kind of like the TrackMan for putting is what they call it.
Okay.
So it kind of measures everything. It's like the most advanced putting thing. So I've got one of those machines. And it's truly the craziest thing that I've seen in all of my teaching. When people get really good at matching the metronome beeps, every single number on that machine gets better.
Mm.
Like their launch numbers get better, their face angle at impact, their spin numbers. It's the most wild thing how every single number gets better. And I think it kind of just because it makes the stroke more athletic, you're kind of not trying to make a good looking stroke, or you're trying to just
Mm.
let it happen. And
Hmm.
I think it's kind of like I talk about putting, not like shooting a basketball, throwing a ball. You don't think that you're 30 feet from the hoop. You don't think that that guy's 10 yards from you and you're throwing it to him. You just
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a metronome does for people in putting is it kind of frees you up to like, okay, I'm just trying to match these beeps and that's all I need to do.
Hmm.
And I think it clears the mind and just lets people make a natural stroke.
So 67, is that what you said on a metronome?
67 is kind of that classic 2-to-1 ratio. For a three beep system, it would be 90 BPM. And that would be start of stroke, transition, and
Mm.
finish.
Okay. Which
So
one do you like more?
I feel like the two beep easier, but some people love that three beep ratio. So I'm not going to go away from that,
Right.
but they're all really good to do. And it's just, again, I like guys starting their day with it because I like people just putting in their headphone. If you start for 5 minutes every day, your tempo's never going to vary that much because
Hmm.
you're just consistently warming up each day with the same timing. And I
Hmm.
think that's big for people.
That's just I couldn't agree more, man. Like tempo for has changed my golf swing. Like I used to be slow, so slow, and then like rush the transition. I remember I was working with Boyd Summerhays, and I was like, dude, my transition is so fast. He goes, have you seen how slow your backswing is? And I was like, oh. And like one session, we like had it fixed, and I was like, man, I grew up, low and slow, low and slow. That's what I always heard growing up. And so it's funny too with putting because I feel like a lot of players think they have to kind of try and be a little too smooth. So you said 2-to-1. That's what John said as well. It's what seems to be kind of the number, but it does stay the same whether it's a 5 or a 50 footer, correct?
So yes and no. So this is where like a metronome is not foolproof because
Okay.
obviously if you have a 25-footer uphill and a 25-footer downhill, if you
Hmm.
put the exact same stroke on it, one of them's not going to be good.
You can cuss, don't worry.
And so like to me, it's like that's what's kind of allowing. It's like to me, it's more the idea of it. Like I want people to get really kind of good at it inside of 10 feet because I feel like
Hmm.
that's really pretty constant. But
Sure.
as people get further away, to me, it's just in general, the backstroke needs to be sped up.
Okay.
And like that's where like obviously in theory, if you're on a flat surface, that 5-footer should be the exact same timing as that 50-footer.
Hmm.
But golf's not played on uneven surfaces, and
Sure.
so that's where it's like your tempo ratio is going to change if you have a downhill or an uphill. It's going to change,
Hmm.
but trying to be as consistent as possible to naturally going to help. And I think people instinctively are going to do that. You're going to be a little slower on the downhill putt just because it's faster, and
Hmm.
you're going to be a little quicker just because it's an uphill putt, and
Right.
that's fine. And so you
Hmm.
might be, forgot who it was. Someone was talking about the other day. They're like, I'm a 1.8 uphill and like a 2.1 down.
Oh, okay.
And so, and it does change, and that's totally fine. But it's just
Hmm.
like
But
you
it's like a
start
window
practicing.
almost.
Yeah. And it's
Okay.
like that's kind of more instinctual stuff to me too, where
Hmm.
it's like you're not trying to rip every putt, but it's like it's interesting to see like when you get I'll give lessons to 25, 30 handicaps who don't
Hmm.
necessarily play a ton of golf and they have that classic slow backstroke. And like I remember I was at with Crafty Golf, Justin Kraft in Minnesota at his club. We were doing a clinic and I had a guy putt a 70-footer up this big slope. And I'm like, he was the classic short long. And I'm like, dude, I just want you to rip it back as hard as you can, as fast as you can. It drips in on the last revolution on this 70-footer. I was like, dude, that's the coolest thing ever.
That's
But it was like
amazing.
it takes people a little bit to feel comfortable getting going back faster
Hmm.
because most people are worried that when they go back they're going to come through quick, but
Yeah.
if you go back you kind of already built up momentum and it's more likely to just fall on the ball because you're obviously
Hmm.
there's going to be a little bit of a transition but you don't need to do that, and that's kind of where just speeding up that backstroke in general even if people don't go on a metronome, speed up your backstroke,
Hmm.
you're probably going to putt better.
I love it. You said too, tempo improved everything else in that measurement of the TrackMan of putting. I can't remember the name, but
It's
that's fascinating. I hadn't heard that.
it's truly the most wild thing I've seen, whether it be tour players, beginners, it doesn't matter. Every
Hmm.
aspect gets better as their tempo becomes much more consistent.
All right, so we got the setup, we got the tempo. What about the stroke itself? Or is it straight back, straight through? Is it a little inside? Do we use those putting blocks? Like how, I feel like that's again just very, very confused a lot of golfers out there, and then sometimes using the wrong training aid for the type of putter. Like, tell us, what your philosophy on the putting stroke.
So to start off, the ball with putting, like 90 to 93% of start line is based off where the face angle is at impact. Because obviously the ball's not curving in the air. So
Hmm.
we need to start it on line with our face. And that's kind of one of the biggest things where I feel like cutters struggle. I feel like people that take it out and cut across it.
Hmm.
I mean, Billy Mayfair is really, I can't like, who else cuts across it that was like a good
he
putter?
he
Like, I
was
can't really
actually on the
think of
show
it.
last year, and he's like, I think I'm the only one that did that.
Yeah, exactly. And like he made it work. He was you can make it work. It's
But
really
yeah.
hard that way. So, but that's in my theory, like that's why I think cutters struggle and drawers are
Mhm.
typically better putters because
Mm.
it's if you're gonna do one extreme, take it way out or take it way in, it's way easier to slam that face shut than it is to hold it off. Because again, if
Mm.
face angle is 90% of start line for putting, it's all matters about how you return it. And so it's really hard to hold it off coming through, but it's really easy to slam it shut because that's what putters are
Hmm.
kind of designed to do, obviously.
Right.
And so that's kind of leads into that path question you asked. So with path, I'm like, I definitely want to see a little arc. I really don't mind if there's a lot of arc. I'm probably one of the
Hmm.
few people that would say that. But I personally have seen it very few times where people can make a straight path work.
Hmm.
It's like it's not something that's easily done. Like
Hmm.
Ricky Fowler did it. If you like Ricky Fowler when he was putting with his Scotty Cameron blade, like it's almost a little bit of like a reverse U where the putter almost has to look like it's going out, but that
Hmm.
part that looks like it's going out is actually keeping that center of that putter on the center of the path. And then it comes back. I can't think of too many guys that can make it work. My buddy Cody Blick, he's got a very straight stroke, and I would never want to change it. But
Hmm.
he's one of the few guys who just makes it work. His hand action, you have to have a little bit of this down cock hand action because
Hmm.
otherwise that face is going to slam shut if it's too straight.
Got it.
But that's the thing where I feel like everyone in theory thinks I should have a straight stroke. If I
Hmm.
have a center shafted putter, if I have this, I should have a straight stroke. And it's like, no, that makes
Okay.
it so much harder to control the face. It doesn't need to be a ton of arc. It could be a little arc, but just getting
Hmm.
that thing to come a little inside is going to allow that putter to kind of shut how it should. And that's one of the biggest things I see with my online lessons is people take it out or the putter just goes way too straight and they're like, I pull it, I pull it, I pull it. And that's
Hmm.
because naturally that putter wants to move left coming through if it goes too straight. It's
Got it.
pretty rare that a putter's going to want to go back straight and then come through going way out. It's going
Mm.
to want to move left. And
Yeah.
then again, if face angle is 90%, if that thing's moving left, it's probably more than likely going to shut as well.
Okay.
And so it's going to start left. So a lot of the times, like I try and as a little bit of a game now when I get a video from someone I haven't seen before, and they're like, I'm pulling it. And I always go
I'm
look at
I'm
the
I'm
down the
having a
line.
lot of self-conscious issues over here because pulls my miss. So I'm like, okay, I'm
And I'm
listening
like,
intently.
I always try and see, like, I'd imagine that their path's going to be very straight. So the first thing
Okay.
I go look at is their down the line video. And I'm like,
Yeah.
more often than not, the path is really straight. And I'm like, just get
Mm.
that thing coming a little in. And then
Okay.
naturally the putter starts working more down the line. They're able to close that face consistently.
Uh-huh.
That's probably my biggest piece of advice for people is in theory, a lot of the stuff works great, but when it's actually out on the golf course, when you actually have to make it work, we're not in a studio, we're not in a simulation, we're actually in
Hmm.
reality, and that thing needs to come in. It's
Hmm.
it's one of the biggest things I've seen for people just in terms of making a difference. And some people struggle with it at first because they're very afraid to get it to go inside, especially on a
Hmm.
left to righter. A left to righter would
Yeah.
be a great example. Like when I'm working with people in person and they have too straight of a stroke and they struggle with it, I'm like, okay, we got it down on the straight putt right here. You got
Hmm.
your stroke looks great. Let's take this over to a left to righter. Nothing changes. Like nothing should change on that because that
Mm.
putt's the exact same. You're trying to make the same stroke that you did on the straight putt, just on
Hmm.
this breaking one. You're trying to stroke it down where you're aimed. And I think once people can kind of conceptualize that and start realizing, oh wow, like I don't need to do this, I don't need to do that. I can just let that thing come
Hmm.
in and swing down the line. It really makes a big difference.
Gosh, that is I'm just looking back in the archives here. I'm like, yeah, polling has definitely always been my miss, and I feel like I've definitely tried to be a little bit too much. So there's obviously different types of arc, and equipment plays a big role. I know you're part of
Yep.
Scotty Cameron, awesome team over there, some of the best, most iconic putters in the world. This guy knows a thing or two about the Scotty. Talk to us about how the like equipment itself, does that impact the amount, like the toe hang with the inside arc? Like, what should players be thinking about for their equipment to match their stroke?
So to be honest, that's one area that I'm still learning a good
Okay.
more about. Like that's why like they've been great to me. Paul Visanko, Scotty Cameron, Drew Page, Brad Cloak. Those are three main guys that involved with the tour, and like all of them have been great for helping me learn more about the putters. Because it's interesting, like there's just so much you can learn in all aspects of everything, right?
Yep.
And so just a small example with Lee Hodges this year. So he'd used I believe it was a single bend Dolo forever.
Hmm.
And he won Minnesota with it. Like he'd had really good putting weeks and years with it. And then just kind of wasn't loving it, kind of wanted to try something a little different. And one of the issues we'd seen with him was his toe was consistently getting up in the air.
Mm.
I'd be like, raise your hands, dude, raise your hands, dude, raise your
Okay.
hands, dude. Like all the time they just got low. And so we went to a plumber's neck, and coincidentally in Minnesota this year, went to a plumber's neck. And so it's Minnesota, which was in end of July to now. I have
Hmm.
not had to tell him to raise his hands one time.
Interesting.
And all that comes from Hosel.
Mm.
And it's wild to see, like, because I never, like, I mean, I was such a simplistic person. I thought I was like, all right, everyone just needs to figure it out on their own. Like, you can figure out how to putt good with anything. But as I've learned more, it's like there's 100% things that will fit you better. I mean, you can learn to putt good with things, but there's things that are going to be more optimal for people. And it's honestly a little bit of trial and error. Like,
Hmm.
there's no, like, if you do this, you need this. It's just like you don't know how people are going to react to it.
Hmm.
Like we think Lee that worked for Lee because just the angles of how it sit was different than the single bend, and so its hands naturally sit higher. His perception of it, and because the lie angle is the exact same. Nothing's changed. It's
Hmm.
just whatever the perception of how that shaft goes in is different. And like that's the thing. So I was a big Adele golf growing up. He's from Oregon, coincidentally.
Okay.
Reed Sport, but his thing was all about alignment. And so when he still does this, they'll put a mirror on your putter, a laser from the hole back. They'll have you set up, they'll remove the ball, and then wherever you're aimed, the laser's going to point.
Hmm.
And that was one of my early foundations of my putting was like, all right, alignment's super important. And kind of that's where I learned where people see shapes differently is from him
Hmm.
because he would like their fitting thing, like he could just pop a different head on there, put a different alignment aid on there. And it would be, you go from aiming way right to aiming left. And it's
Dang.
like, oh, you went from a square to a circle
And you're
and
just
you
talking about
see
the
circles.
alignment aid on the putter.
Yeah. Or the shape of the head itself.
Okay.
Like it's wild how some guys do not like top lines. Some guys
Hmm.
don't like lines at all. Some guys
Hmm.
like dots. Some guys like flange lines. And it's
Hmm.
really interesting. Like, so before came on with Scotty Cameron, I'd used an Adele putter for a while and I had the lines grayed out on it. It was a silver putter and I put silver Sharpie. There's a top line and two bottom ones. I grayed them out. Just, I don't even know why. I just kind of liked it. I went into this was probably back in like 2018, was out seeing David Adele, and he set me up on that thing. And from 10 feet, I was left edge, left edge, left edge every time. And so we did like six putts, and he's like, all right. He goes back, grabs a Sharpie, puts a Sharpie's the top line black, but leaves the bottom two silver. Goes down, I do five, center, center, center.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, all right, what's that? You got to explain that to me. And he goes, your brain and your eyes didn't know where to look. And he goes, you probably got drifted back. Like my eyes got drifted towards the back of the putter. And he goes, when you do that, it's going to aim you left. So he goes, me putting the Sharpie mark on top brought your eyes forward and shifted your alignment a little right and just got you where you needed to be.
Hmm.
Like it's wild how little stuff like that makes a huge difference. Like,
Yeah, I
I mean,
had a
I've, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, no, no. I was just gonna say, like when I did a putter fitting, I was going through a massive slump last year, and that's kind of the reason I asked that question is because like he just was like, "Get your hands up." Like my hands were just like super low, and I feel like the putter was like the toe was way up, and like that little thing just like changed everything. And I got a new putter as well, so I think that might have helped with the alignment aid. Actually, was totally different. So I'm kind of just having one of those moments. Do you tend to see players? Or do better players have the toe up more? Is it flat? Is it heel up? Is there any sort of commonality?
No, honestly, it kind
Okay.
of goes into like the individual person. Like
Hmm.
Tiger, who's in your background there, obviously he notoriously would be Toa or flat at its
Hmm.
absolute most best. Then Strickers obviously always heel up.
Right.
And there's no wrong. That's the thing that I've learned being out on tour more and seeing all these guys. Like there's just different ways to do things. And it's
Hmm.
like it needs to kind of fit into your, in my opinion, your personality, kind of who you are. Like you need to be true to yourself with personality wise and just kind of who you are. Like I don't think like Brant Snedeker is the best example to me. Brant Snedeker talks fast, he moves fast, and guess
Hmm.
what? He does everything in golf fast.
Hmm.
And I feel like people that are true to themselves are really kind of, it makes golf a little easier. Like I think Tiger for a lot of people was honestly bad, being so serious, being so locked in all the time. Not everyone can do that.
Hmm.
Like some people need to goof off a little bit in between. They need the moments of seriousness, like 60 seconds before or 60 seconds after their shot or whatever.
Yep.
There's times to be serious, but I think some people trying to be Tiger 24/7 definitely harmed them because some people are just more happy go lucky. And like if you're trying to be serious 24/7,
Yep.
you're gonna go crazy. Like I think you just got to be true to your personality. And I think that shows in people's putting strokes, that shows in people's golf swings.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that. There's no one way to do it. Figure out what works best for you, get the data, like we said, and then keep doing that and stop trying to follow Tiger or JT or whoever your favorite golfer is, right? I feel like sometimes we try to emulate that player, whether it's their swing, their attitude, their putter, their putting stroke, and it's like figure out what works for you.
And like the golf media is kind of guilty of it because whoever wins that week, they highlight the things they love about them. And
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of goes into like whoever it was, whoever wins, they talk about, oh, I love how this guy does this in its golf swing. It might be a really weird move, but they're like, I like how he does this and he shallows it perfectly or whatever. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that works great for him. And he's worked at years of doing that.
Sure.
That's probably, that could be awful for you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so like, that's a great point you brought up where it's like, you're not trying to just copy people all the time. It's, you're trying to figure out what works best for you. And sometimes that might mean trying something that looks stupid or weird, but
Mm-hmm.
like ultimately that could give you the thing that makes the biggest difference. Like, so I know Tim Tucker really well, caddied for Bryson DeChambeau for all of his PGA Tour wins and his US Open win at Winged Foot.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim's like, and I've always kind of known this about Bryson. Bryson's willing to try whatever to get better. And Tim's like, it didn't matter what I said. Like Tim's like, if I came to him with an idea that he's like, I genuinely think you'll get better, Bryson would 100% give it a try. Might not stick with it, but he's going to
Mm-hmm.
try it, see if there's any merit, and if there is, keep going with it until there's a reason to not. And I think people could always take a little bit of that, where it's like you don't need to try a million different things, but try different stuff. And when you're on the driving range, experiment on your own and see what happens. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a great way to learn.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I feel like most people they're scared. They're like scared, like I don't want to lose it. But it's like it's okay to kind of experiment. But like you said, record yourself and get some good notes,
Yeah.
journal so you don't lose it. So we talked a lot about, the setup. We got tempo. The one piece that I feel like is I'm not sure if this is your side of things or if players work with more of a mental coach on this, but I know you said one of the four aspects of putting is the mindset piece, and I feel like that's what makes this guy the goat of all putters to me. I mean, if I had an 8 footer and my life was on it, I'm giving it to Tiger, like hands
Yeah.
down, right? So it's like, well, how does the mindset piece work, and how do you work with players on the tour talking about that, or is that more on the mental coaching side of things?
I think all putting coaches are definitely mental coaches to a degree, like for sure. Just, I think mindset, I would rather have someone think they're going to make every putt than have a perfect putting stroke because someone that has a perfect putting stroke can be unconfident in just whatever, but they have the
Hmm.
most perfect putting stroke in the world. But this guy who has a bad putting stroke believes in his heart he's going to make it 100% of the time. I'd rather have that guy because you can kind of learn to have a better stroke, but like the mindset aspect, something that I've become more probably in the last year is something I've really worked on more with my guys.
Hmm.
Like Rico Hoey's one of the new guys I'm working with. He just finished second in Utah, and we switched to the long putter in the off season. Rico's, if you look at his stats, it's him and Scotty Scheffler are pretty comparable ball striking wise. It's one and two, and like they're one and two in different categories.
That's impressive.
And But Rico's been that good of a ball striker his whole life, and he's missed putts. If you hit it that good, and this is kind of honestly the case for a lot of tour guys, they hit it so good, they've seen so many putts miss in their life,
Hmm.
but it doesn't matter because they hit 17 greens around, they still shoot 69, missing putts. It's
Yeah.
like they're just that good at golf that sometimes it leads and bleeds in over time. So with Rico, like when we went to the long putter, like I tried to reframe it for him. I was like, dude, we're doing something new. This is so different. Like you don't know what you're gonna be like with this. You could be the best putter in the world this way. This
Hmm.
like how whatever you've done for your past 30 years of your life, like don't matter anymore. They really don't. And so like trying this like a fresh start kind of thing, and like goes out to Napa and was like finished 0 strokes gained putting for that week and finishes T9. Goes to Japan, they didn't have stats, but he putted really well, finishes T4. Goes to Utah, gains about 2 or 3 shots for the week, and finishes second. Like it's mindset for sure for him and anyone. Like I've seen it before. I mean, one of my favorite examples that I tell people all the time is good iron players. If a good iron player is hitting bad iron shots on the first 6 holes, they're just like, oh, I'm not going to hit good iron shots ever again. I'm done. But people do that with putting. If the
Yeah.
people putt bad for the first 7 holes, they're like, I'm not going to make a putt today. I'm done. But like, I tell that to guys. I'm like, so if you missed your first 6 greens, are you gonna be like, dude, there's no way I'm gonna be able to figure out my golf swing. I'm just not gonna hit a good golf shot today. And everyone's
Hmm.
like, no, that's not how I think at all. And I'm like, well, why would you think that on the putting green?
Yeah.
And my favorite example was Matt Neesmith in Quail Hollow. This was probably 2021. He was like 4 out of the cut with 7 to play. Hadn't I think he was like -2 or -3 for the what was that 29 holes or whatever he played. In the next 7 holes, he birdied 6 of the last 7. He made putts of at least 10 feet on every hole, and he gained like 6 shots putting in those 7 holes.
Dang.
And so he went from -2 for 29 holes to gaining 4 shots or whatever in 36 holes. And that kind of to me, it's like you just never know when the putts are going to go in. And that's why mindset's so big. Because if you give up, if you kind of start second guessing yourself, that it's never going to help. It never works. Even for me, like I don't play all the time and I'm still a pretty good putter. But when I go out and like there's times I start second guessing myself and I putt like
Hmm.
shit. And then there's other days where like I'm just freed up and like
Yeah.
everything goes in. And it's wild because I consciously notice it. I'm like, dude, why are you overthinking right now?
Hmm.
And it's the same for everyone. Like everyone does it, but mindset is the biggest aspect. And it doesn't need to be that like you're trying overly hard to make every putt. It's just you're giving every putt a good effort.
Hmm.
Like all I tell my guys is just go hit as many good putts as you can.
Yeah. I
And
like that.
I've done it before with guys where like I have them do like a scorecard. And I'm like, I want you to grade your commitment and your routine on every putt. And then we're gonna go through it after. I don't care if you missed every putt today or made every
Hmm.
putt today. We're gonna go through it after. And like it's wild when you talk through people. Like so we did it with Lee at CI or Hilton Head last year. He didn't putt great. He lost like maybe 0.8 that day or something. So it's not a bad day, but so we're going through it and he's like, hit a really good putt there, hit a really good putt there, hit a really good putt there. And like your brain's like, oh wow, like we walked through all 18 holes and he's like, man, like I hit way more good putts than I thought. And it's
Hmm.
like it's so easy to think because make or miss is kind of determined for putting, obviously. It's so easy to think that a missed putt's a bad putt, but you could hit a perfect putt and it can miss. Like you're putting on imperfect surfaces
Hmm.
that people walk on all day. It's just like I don't care. The best surfaces on PGA Tour are still imperfect surfaces.
Yeah, I was gonna say the routine part. That's when I watch Tiger. I love watching his highlight reels. Anytime I need a confidence boost for myself, I'll just watch Tiger and be like,
Yeah.
"This is possible out here." But his routine is so good. It's like Thursday morning on a like just a normal PGA event versus Sunday major. Got to make it. It's the exact same. So, what do you work on with players, and what would you like to see more amateurs do with that pre-shot putting routine?
So kind of like we talked about earlier, it starts with setting the putter head first and building your stance around that. So like what people do before it's going to vary. People are going to read greens differently or how they
Hmm.
go about it. But like once you kind of get into actually hitting the putt, all I really care about is that you set the putter head first, build your stance around that.
Okay.
And then there's timing in there too. Obviously, you don't want anyone standing over it. You've probably heard people talk about that one. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. I
Hmm.
kind of like people counting, just again, kind of getting out of your own way again, like
Hmm.
not thinking about the outcome, thinking about just different things. And it's wild. But that's where the routine's for. It's funny. I actually posted a video of Tiger, like one of those old Amex videos, like where he's in that
Mm.
button down. And
Yeah, so good.
that video I posted is literally him talking about his putting routine. And he
Uh-huh.
goes, I think routine in golf, but in putting is probably the most important thing. It's literally what he said in that video. And it's because it gets you out of, if you're doing a routine correctly, it gets you out of thinking about the outcome,
Hmm.
because you should be worried about different things, getting your setup right, getting this right, making sure you're whatever your checkpoints are. But the big thing for me, again, it just starts with people getting that thing right and then developing a timing to it as well, kind of like we were talking about. Some
Hmm.
people really try and sync up looks with kind of the metronome beeps. I've had
Mm.
people do that where they're trying to match the beat, beat, beat to kind of get their stroke started in that way. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good way to do it. But I would just say the two simplest things that could improve anyone: setting your putter head first, building your stance around that, and having a somewhat consistent timing to your tempo or to your routine.
Hmm. Okay.
Because that's
Perfect.
something tour players will work on. They'll time
Yeah.
it. They'll get it down to, okay, this should be around 11 seconds when I do my routine perfectly.
Hmm. Have you read the book Golf's 8 Second Secret?
I actually have not. Who wrote that?
It was Mike Bender. It
Not
is
wrote
like
that. I have not.
120 pages. He's got a couple 100,000 followers. He's a super
Yeah, I
successful
know
coach.
Mike. I don't not
Yeah, you
know
know
him, but I
Mike.
know who he
Okay.
is.
Yeah, I was gonna say his book though just like opened my eyes because he breaks down like a lot of the meltdowns that happen, like Greg Norman and Lee Westwood, like all these different ones over the years, and it just talked about the routine changing and stuff. And Scott Fawcett, Decade Golf, kind of talked about it with Tiger and how he's just super consistent. But that book really kind of opened my eyes, and I was like, huh, because I realized when I looked back on like my quote unquote failures, or I was really blowing big shots. It seemed like I was spending way too much time over trying to think my way to it. And so now it's like, just like you said, get in that routine so you're not focused on the outcome, and then just whatever happens, happens, but you're kind of setting yourself up at least for success.
And and that's the hardest thing. And I mean all of golf, but especially putting, like detaching from the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Like and that's the thing that gets people yips, like anxiety inside of three,
Mm-hmm.
4 feet, 2 footers, where it's like they're so worried about missing it. What that person, what their buddy over there is going to say if they miss that 2 footer, what they're going to
Mm-hmm.
feel like if they miss that 2 footer, versus just if their only care is like, I'm just going to hit a good putt. And if I hit a good putt on the line I want and it doesn't go in, I can live with that. That is better. Like, because you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to have anxiety. And that to me is what builds confidence for people too, is like, okay, I've committed to it and sticking to it. Like second guessing is where people kind of start to destroy confidence. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I had that aimed out right edge and I really liked it, but then I just one second, last second was over. Like, I don't want to do that. And like, that's where people start to second guess themselves. We're just like, man, just commit to what you're doing and try to hit as good of, and I think this holds true for everything. Hit as good of a possible shot, a putt, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the outcome, if you do those things properly, will kind of take care of itself.
So I know we're kind of running towards that time, but I had to ask about the last aspect you said for green reading. So what would you say is your favorite green reading tip for amateur golfers?
Uh, yeah, so I've become a big fan of people using their feet. I know this has kind of become a controversial thing, but because I've always been a really good greener with my eyes, and it's hard to teach people how to see slope if they
Mm-hmm.
can't. I really like. I mean, I've seen it now. I've talked to other putting coaches about it. It's very difficult to get someone to see that this thing's going to swing hard, right? If they just can't see it. Like if you just can't, like, I mean, I've really struggled with people trying to get people to see it better. Like hitting a lot of putts is a great way to work on reading. Hitting random putts all the time, hitting long
Mm-hmm.
putts, that's a good way to work on it. But if you can use your feet, that's gonna, at the minimum, even if you're not attaching it to like a 2%, 1%, I
Mm-hmm.
know this is left. I know this is right. That takes out a variable automatically. And then from there, it's like, this is pretty severe. So I need to play a lot of break, or this is not a ton, but I know it's going that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people will slowly start to learn, like, okay, this is a lot. It's going hard right. And then from there, you can start to see it better once you actually kind of understand things. But that would be probably my biggest piece of advice would be, I'm a huge fan of people using their feet, even if they don't use aim point, if they don't do anything, just
Mm-hmm.
using your feet alone to kind of eliminate variables to me is a really big thing.
Yeah, that actually, yeah, I found a lot of success the last probably year and a half when I added that into my routine. I started pacing off putts. more for stat
Hmm.
tracking, but then I started to realize, oh, I can kind of feel this is a little uphill, this is a little downhill, or like if, depending on kind of where you're walking. And obviously, one eye over here, Cyclops is not the best green reader sometimes. So I think that the feet can help a ton. For the next segment, just before the last question, I wanted to rate different putting trends and training aids and different ideas. So you can give it 1 to 10. So from 1 to 10, how important is the putter length?
Probably an 8. I think it's pretty important. Because
You
like
feel
if you
like,
get one that's too long, you get people that arms get retracted, they start standing up too much,
uh-huh.
and then that kind of leads to different variables, and then kind of eye position, everything gets so
Okay.
putter length, man, maybe a 9 or a 10. That's pretty important.
Tend to be too long then?
Yeah, I would say
Hmm.
probably more often than not, they're too long for people.
Okay. Next one, 1 to 10, putting mirrors.
Uh, I'm gonna go 8, and I'm gonna put a caveat to that is no one does this. Very few people, even on the PGA Tour, do this. A mirror is useless if it's not on a level surface.
Mm,
You need to know. Like I've seen very few people actually put a digital level down to make sure it's flat. Because if that
oh,
thing's on a 1 degree slope, the readings are off.
huh. I'm having so many aha moments here. I love it.
So like that would be so that's so if anyone that uses the mirror, just put it on a level spot. That's all you need to
Yeah.
do.
Okay. 1 to 10, aim point.
Uh I'll go 8 again. Like it's important, but like so aim point, there's another thing called Tor read.
Hmm.
It's Tor read's essentially just a math version of aim point.
It's pretty
That's kind of
technical. I tried to look into it. It kind of went right over my head.
it's at first it can be a little bit. It's just a simple math equation. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Like I've kind of memorized it a little bit now, but like I like that for ballpark reads. But I'll kind of take aim point and turn it into green reading system, and I'd say
Hmm.
10.
Okay.
Any kind of system, like you
Right.
need some kind of a system to like at least go off of. Because if you're just kind of doing different stuff all the time, you're never really
Mm,
going to know if you're actually reading green goods anyway. But if you have
yeah.
some kind of a system, you'll be like, okay, like this isn't working. I need to adjust something somewhere.
Okay. 1 to 10, indoor putting mats. Useful?
If I would say that needs to be done, like that's where kind of like we were talking at the start of this, they're useful if they're used correctly. Like, because I work with people on shag carpet in the winter, like
Hmm.
everything. I work with everyone on hardwood, doesn't matter. But the thing I care about with people working on inside that makes it valuable is setup, tempo, kind of like getting on a metronome, something
Hmm.
like that, like where you're consciously working on walking into it,
Hmm.
little stuff like that. It's not necessarily working on like the
Yeah.
stroke, obviously you're going to work on, but
Hmm.
to me, it's like having like again, kind of talking about knowing exactly like my feet go here, my ball positions here, so that you're in the same spot every time, learning how to walk into it, like doing the little stuff that's kind of overkill a little bit for indoor
Hmm.
putting mat, maybe like in terms of just taking a little more time to walk into it. But that's
Yeah.
going to be so much more beneficial for someone.
So much wisdom over here, man. I feel like we already want to have you back. I got 100 more questions still. For the before getting into the last question, what's the best place players can learn about your work? I know you do online. You said 13,000 lessons. That is impressive, by the way. With a full PGA Tour schedule, I think you said you traveled 31 weeks last year. So you're a
Yeah,
busy
31
guy.
weeks last year. Pottersputting.com. I just redid my website. You can buy packages there. DM me on Instagram, Pottersputting. That's pretty active there. It's kind of where I do most of my stuff, but that's probably gonna be where you're gonna see most of it. I've got some videos linked on my website. People can go check out little drills and stuff through the Scotty Cameron website.
Hmm.
But Pottersputting on Instagram or my website itself is going to be the best way to get a hold of me and learn more.
From one digital marketing geek here to a fellow golfer. I love the website. I was on it last night checking it out, so it looks good. Whoever did it, or if you did it, it's a
Oh,
good
no,
good
it's
clean
funny
layout.
because I like it was I just had it redone this year. I did it in 2017. Like I'm not like a website guy at all. Like I did it on GoDaddy's like custom website builder and it was
uh,
bad. And like the guys that redid it were they were like, dude, this was really bad. And I was like, oh, I know, like it's okay.
Well, clearly it worked. You got over 100,000, I think, on Instagram and 13,000 lessons. So even if the website isn't the best, which I think it looks good now,
It
clearly
looks good now, yeah.
people just want results, man. So for the last question, we didn't really get into putting practice, but I want to know, what do you think is the most effective putting drill that amateurs can use and kind of maybe steal from the pros?
Start line tool. Like a Pels putting tutor, a putting plate, anything that like the ball has to just go through the Y golf thing,
Hmm.
anything like that. Goes back to, again, putting start lines 90 to 93, depending on your distance from the hole of face angle at impact. So
Gosh,
the
that's
only way
crazy.
to get it through those marbles on a Pels putting tutor, or the notches on the Y golf thing,
Mm-hmm.
are to have the face angle correct. So by doing that, you're naturally training the most important skill in putting, or one of the most important skills in putting, in terms of squaring the face at impact. So that
Mm-hmm.
would probably be the best thing. And then you can do that indoors. You can do those anywhere. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of why I would 100% go with those.
Do you like those for mid to long range putts or more short putts?
Honestly, everything.
Okay.
Like, you can hit 40 footers with them. They're great. Like, I'm a big Pels putting tutor guy because it's very mobile. You can pick it
Mm-hmm.
up and move it easily. Like, I'm a big fan of people setting it down, trying to figure out green reading wise. Like, take it out
Mm-hmm.
to a hole. Okay, I think this putt's going to be a cup out right. Get that thing lined up, a cup out right, put the marbles in, and you know if you hit your line or not. And then that kind of naturally helps people work on green reading as well.
That's like one of my first training aids I ever bought, and I still have it. So rest in peace, Dave.
It's
Absolute legend.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like, tour guys get all these stuff for free. I bought like 10 of them off Kohl's.com, Kohl's.com of all places, like
That's
two
so
years
random.
ago. I've given them out to tour players over the last 2 years. So,
That's
like,
wild. You think they would have everything by now. That's hilarious. Oh man. Well, Marcus, thanks so much, man. I learned a ton. I know the audience will love this, and congrats on all your success, man. It's so cool to see someone take a passion for golf and make it at the highest levels, work with PGA Tour players, and then give back to us amateur golfers and help so much. So thanks again, man.
no, I appreciate you having me on anytime.
All right. Thanks, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. If you